I went to the wrong wedding and found the love of my life. A few years ago, I received an invitation to my college friend's wedding. We hadn't talked much since graduation, but I was happy to be invited. The ceremony was being held at a large hotel on the other side of town. On the day of the wedding, I got dressed, bought a gift, and drove there feeling excited to catch up with old friends. When I arrived, the lobby was packed with guests. There were decorations everywhere and signs pointing people toward different event halls. I glanced at my phone, saw a sign with the right last name, and followed the crowd into a beautifully decorated ballroom. Everything seemed normal. I recognized a few faces from college, though not many. I figured it had simply been a long time since I'd seen everyone. I found a seat near the back and waited for the ceremony to begin. A few minutes later, a woman sat down beside me. She smiled and asked, "Are you from the bride's side or the groom's side?" I laughed and said, "Honestly, I haven't figured that out yet." She laughed too. For the next 20 minutes, we talked about work, travel, and how awkward weddings can be when you only know one person. Her name was Emily. The conversation felt surprisingly easy, like we'd known each other for years. Then, the ceremony started. That's when I realized something was wrong. The groom walked down the aisle. I had absolutely no idea who he was. Then the bride appeared. I didn't know her either. My confusion quickly turned into panic. I checked my invitation. Wrong ballroom, wrong wedding. The hotel was hosting 2 weddings at the same time. I had accidentally walked into a stranger's ceremony. I leaned over and whispered to Emily, "I think I'm at the wrong wedding." She stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing. I showed her the invitation and she nearly fell out of her chair. The funniest part? She was there by mistake too. Her friend's wedding was in the ballroom across the hall. Neither of us had noticed. We spent the rest of the ceremony trying not to laugh while pretending we belonged there. Afterward, we quietly slipped out before anyone could question us. Standing in the hallway, we looked at the signs and finally found our actual weddings. Before leaving, Emily smiled and said, "Well, this is probably the weirdest way I've ever met someone." I agreed. Then she started walking away. A few seconds later, I realized I might never see her again, so I did something I almost never do. I ran after her. "Wait," I said. She turned around. "Would you maybe want to get coffee sometime? At the correct location this time?" She laughed. "Only if you promise not to accidentally attend someone else's date." We exchanged numbers. What was supposed to be a quick coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into weekend plans. Weekend plans turned into a relationship. Years later, we still joke about that day. People always ask how we met. They expect some romantic story about fate or destiny. Instead, I tell them the truth. I got lost, sat in the wrong ballroom, and spent an hour celebrating a marriage between 2 complete strangers. And somehow that mistake ended up being the best decision I never meant to make. Sometimes life doesn't change because everything goes according to plan. Sometimes it changes because you walk through the wrong door and meet the right person.